This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you by Language Blend, the new best way to learn Spanish. Language Blend focuses on what you actually need to live and get by abroad with daily one-on-one lessons, a dedicated texting partner. It's like living in a Spanish-speaking country without ever leaving home. Go to languageblend.com for more information. Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Leo Spencer. He's a Brazilian traveler coming from Viajo Logo Existo. That's a podcast, Instagram, etc. And he has a wonderful story. Leo, how's it going, man?
I'm doing really good, man. Thanks for having me. So exciting to be here and talk about traveling and finance, kids, what nomad life. So yeah, so good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to kick things off by just telling us a little bit about your story and who is Leo Spencer?
Yeah, it's all right. It's gonna take a while to go through there. Lots of things I've been doing the last 20 years. So I used to say that I had a normal life back in São Paulo, like a urban life. I went to business school after finishing, 17, 18 years old, to start, into business. And then I start working for the financial market quite early for Citibank, the American bank in Brazil,
Hmm.
in the treasury.
Hmm.
And I was like, working 12, 14 hours a day. I was a happy guy with that. I quit it for a while. I went to Australia, did my master's there, come back to the bank. And but since the time in the bank, I was very much into the bank, the investment. I mean, really commitment. But if you look into like the small details, I was that guy during the holiday. I was going to Costa Rica to surf, and most of my friends, they were going to Miami or New York or going to Europe. They were like, "Why are you going to Costa Rica? Stay in that shitty hotel?" And I was like, "I like surfing, I like taking pictures." So then I did like Nicaragua, I did like Galapagos, I did a lot of places that most of my friends in the bank, they never
Yeah, I mean,
fence
that's
going to
that's
this.
pretty far, Sao Paulo to Costa Rica.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say more like the lifestyle of being in a shitty hotel, but close to the good waves and
Hmm.
not spending money, just with my surfboard. So from that time, when I look back, I was like, okay, I was in the bank, doing my life, really committed, but I was not just like all the other guys. And then I met my wife in the bank as well. She's economist. She's been through the same things. We became executives in the bank and was doing a lot of money. All my friends, they stay in the bank. They're multimillionaire nowadays. And but in 2012, we a friend of mine, he gave me a book of a couple, a Brazilian lady married with a British guy, and they have traveled the world in a Land Rover, like in an overland trip. And I have no idea like that we could make it. So just to give idea, like that was the first time we saw like, okay, that's possible to travel the world by car. At that time, we were just doing like normal guys, like picking a
Hmm.
plane, going to California during my 15 days holiday, going to Europe or going to Patagonia. And then in a year from that day, we setting up all the things to quit and bought the car. Then we can go into more details. But the big picture, in 2012, we decided to quit. Early 2013, we get married, and then we went traveling from Brazil to Singapore in a car, driving. And so far, putting all things together, it's been 10 years, 127 countries visit, 4 books published, podcast. We did a TV show in Brazil in partnership with Microsoft. So
Hmm.
there are so many angles that we can go through here. And now we have a little daughter. She's a traveler as well. I'm in Sao Paulo now, but I'm flying back to Portugal. We're living half time in Portugal, half time in Brazil or somewhere else.
Hmm.
And yeah, take me on where you want to go from this lot of insights that I gave you.
Yeah, no, that's a very epic background and definitely builds up the story for what we're going to get into. And before we do that, I'd love to just set the story a little bit more. So you're where are you calling in from right now, by the way?
I'm in Sao Paulo now.
in Sao Paulo now. And a little bit of groundskeeping before we continue. So I was introduced to you by
Hmm.
Francisco Litvai. So he introduced me to your story.
Hmm.
And when I heard about the overlanding and I heard about doing it with a family, like with a wife, with kids on the way, 127 countries.
Well, like I said, there's so many angles. Like, definitely, the hardest part was quitting the job. Like, because it wasn't something that I hated. You know, if you burn out, if you don't like the people you work, or you're not finding yourself, working with what you like, definitely it's much easier to make this turning
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
But in our case, it was like, no, I like the bank, I like the people that I work, I like the money that I'm making. So why quitting? But in the other hand, I was like, wow, that would be so cool if I could first prove to the people in the bank that you can quit and make something else, because they get so narrow minded that they don't know how to do anything else. And they would start thinking like, wow, if I lose my job, I'm gonna be quit, I'm gonna be my end. And I was like, no, like you have to be more plural. You have to be more than just one thing in your life. So in my mind was like, wow, if I can make, maybe I can show you those guys that they can too. But that was in the very back end of my mind. But the second one was like, would be so nice to drive into the small cities, because when you pick a plane and you go to this
Hmm.
big capitals, those big cities, that's super cool, man. I'm not judging that, but what if you can drive into the small place and see the world like more in the details? And I was into photography already. I was like, so I was trying to balance in that. Like I was 29, I had 10 years of bank at that time. I
Hmm.
was like, oh, okay, if I travel for 3 years, I'll come back when I'm 32, 33. I'm still young to come back to the bank or to the financial markets. At that time, Brazil, or mostly São Paulo, it was booming. Was, remember, we have a economist cover with the crystal, in a rocket flying. Like Brazil economy is booming, and
Hmm.
so I mean, there's so many foreigners coming to São Paulo. So I had an apartment. I say I can rent my apartment with the money from the rent. I can pay my bills when I'm traveling. But definitely coming to my boss and say I'm quitting because I'm going to travel the world, and kind of leaving behind everything that was I had built in those 10 years was like definitely the hardest part. And I think this is the key point for everyone: leaving behind, things that you have built in exchange of so much uncertainty, because I have no previous experience. Just to give you an idea, Vince, we bought a Land Rover, a Defender model, which is an old ones. It's not very common to find in US, but
Yeah, it's very boxy, right?
it's very box. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We put a tent in the top. We removed all the chair, the things inside, so we kind of refurnished inside with a cabinet, little kitchen. But I have no previous experience camping in my life. I had camping like once, like in a gate community, like something that doesn't count, doesn't count. Like okay, you camp. No, I camped in my ankle backyard, and I had shower in the bathroom. I just spent the night in the tent. So, and my wife was even harder for her. Like she haven't never been inside a tent. She have no wish, I mean, no desire to be. She was that kind of g- girl in the bank. Like she had all her suits, by colors in her
She worked
cabinet.
at the bank with you.
She worked in the bank. She was kind of doing the same
Ooh.
path. And so I came to her and say, well, actually, our plan, we were dating for 2 years. We were not even married. So I came to her and said, what do you think about going to Australia when we are 35? That was like 6, 7 years in time from that day. Because as we said, like it's time enough to save some money in the bank, and then we restart in Australia. I spent a few years in Australia when I was doing my master's. That was a place that I had in my mind that was like perfect to live, nice weather, nice people, safe. And that time I came to her and say, why don't you make it now? We can go by car to Australia. She was like, what? And what makes me even crazy at that time, that she said, all right, we can make, but let's, put everything in a spreadsheet, and see how it stands, how it goes in terms of numbers, how much you're going to spend. Let's buy the car. And like I said, that was a year of putting everything in a spreadsheet and planning how much we could spend, how much, or where we want to go, which place we want to be. But definitely the day we came to my boss and she came to her boss, said, we are quitting. We are quitting the bank. And we did it at the same time because we have the same CFO. So we didn't want, people talk about we were quitting. So we talked with our boss at the same time, at the same day. So we were fucking nervous that day, man. Very nervous. And it worked. We're still married.
That's an incredible story.
Mm. And then in 2013 we get married, 1 month before we get into the road, into this world trip by car. Because there was other times, like there is not such a things like we have now of creators, influencers, and people traveling and living the car or living
Hmm.
in another country. So we got a lot of attention from magazines, from newspaper, from TV shows, like the couple who is leaving the financial market to
Yeah.
live in a car.
Is there a street in Sao Paulo like Wall Street? What do
Yeah,
they
yeah.
call it? What are they? Is there like a nickname for the financial district in Sao Paulo?
It used to be Avenida Paulista,
Avenida
which
Paulista.
used to be the main financial district. Now it's changed for a place called Faria Lima, and most of the banks there are now there. But no, there's nothing like in the US so much like
Okay, okay.
Main Street or Wall
But yeah,
Street.
no, I get the headlines. It's like quitting Brazilian Wall Street, about to travel the world. It's good.
It was more like like quitting a normal life to live in a car. That was more. That was more like why they're doing that, because we have to put in context that Brazil, it's a challenging country. I even don't not saying it's a third country. It's a first. It's a challenging country. You have so many small countries and different structures inside Brazil. But one thing which is clear is if you don't make money, you cannot rely on the government. I mean, for anything. Different from Europe, or different from Finland, from Japan, whatever, someplace in the US as well. So for people, when you have a good job, to quit that for something that sounds like, at that time nobody could expect that we would make money on it. They said, all right, you're gonna travel the world by car, and then what? You're gonna starving, how you gonna make money, how is gonna be your future? Which is all right, that's very okay considering the environment we have here in Brazil. But so the fact that we were quitting the bank was like, wow, they're quitting like a dream job for most of the people in terms of money, investment bank, American bank.
Hmm.
But they're going to live in the car. How are they gonna make it? They're gonna die, because I think that's very similar to US. It's a big country. You travel most of the time by car, but you travel inside the country. You max go to Canada, or if you live in North area, if you go to Mexico, you live in California. But it's not like in Europe that you from Portugal go to Spain. That's a common thing. It's a 2 hours drive. In Brazil, it's the same. Maximum you go to Argentina, you go to Chile, but it's easier to go by plane than by car. So when he
Hmm.
said we're traveling the world by car, there was like, why? Why don't take a plan? Why don't you take, something more safer? Or and so that's why we call a lot of attention from
Hmm.
media overall, because it's very that was very unique at that time.
Yeah. And one thing that's striking to me, Leo, is that you can reflect on this moment so vividly 10 years later. Because at this point, you did Brazil to Singapore in 4 years, I think. It's been pretty much 10 years of constant consecutive travel. So pretty cool that you can kind of reflect back on that moment that you decided to throw everything to the wind.
I think that's because it was quite hard to go through it in terms of, you have to decide, you have to take the action, you have to leave it behind. Then you have to face the idea of, you're going to leave the car, you want to make it through, you want to make it, for real. You don't want to travel for 2 months, then come back, say, oh, you guys were right. Like, that was quite hard. I'm back. Unemployed.
Yeah, you had something to
So
prove. You had to go big.
yeah, yeah, and I push it, because my boss came to me and said, "You want a license of a year? Just go make our travel and come back in a year, and
Yeah,
you see what
sabbatical.
you do." And I said, "Can you make it 3 years?" He said, "No, we can't. Like, it's impossible." I said, "So I'm quitting. So I'm going." And so you don't want to come back, in 3 months with the tail between the legs, say, "Oh, you're right. I did. What I did was a mistake." So yeah, I still have this very vivid. I still have this very uh, real in my life. Uh, and one point that I want to put in perspective, we did it like at 4 years travel by car. Okay, so we took 4 years from Brazil to Singapore. Then we come back to Brazil by boat, and that's something we can talk more about the practical things behind a travel. When you travel by car, and then we kept traveling, but by plane, by train. We did like overland trip by trucks in other countries, and it's been 7 years. Then we came the pandemic and everything changed, and that's when my daughter came and things start changing. We still traveling. She knows, I think, 7 or 8 countries. She's not even 2 years old. She's been in Hungary, and she's been in Romania, she's been a lot of places in Europe and Brazil, but we're not traveling with the car anymore. And and people keep asking us, why are you not traveling by car anymore? Why you left the car, you sold the car? But I did it. I traveled for 4 years. I crossed, like, in miles, I think 90,000 miles around the globe. Like, I put my car in a container for many times. So just to give idea, like, the practical things, we drove from Brazil, from Sao Paulo, to the very south end of the South America, which is Ushuaia, a city in
Hmm.
the very south of Argentina.
Hmm.
Then we start driving north. We did all the way to California. We get into California, like, it was winter time. We were camping. We were fucking cold to us, like, coming from a tropical country. And we were like, okay, we're not going anywhere north. So we crossed the whole US through the south, like,
That's cool.
the Grand Canyon, then went southern, like, Louisiana, and very trying to be very
Texas.
close
Yeah.
Texas, and get into Georgia, then turn right, get to into Florida. From Miami, we put the car in a container.
Okay.
We sent it to Netherlands,
Netherlands.
to
Okay.
Netherlands, to Rotterdam, and we flew over. Okay, so people ask, you go
Yeah.
into
That was your second ferry crossing, I guess, or container crossing, because the
you're
Panama
right.
one.
You're right. Yeah, all right. Yeah, we did the first one between
Yeah.
Cartagena and Panama, which
And
is
just
the
to
Darien
visualize a
Gate.
little bit more, I guess on the Argentina side, you go down the East Coast, right, to Ushuaia, and then maybe when you go back up, you're going West Coast.
Exactly. Like, there's a straight route. I think the route 3, which is coming from Buenos Aires all the way to Ushuaia,
Hmm.
and then we come back, kind of going back forth between Chile, Patagonia, and Argentina, Patagonia. Like, we did, I think, 7 or 8 times we crossed the border. I go to the city, come back to Argentina, go back to Chile. It's a beautiful area, beautiful, beautiful. So many nature, like, very wild, a bit cold, but not extremely. Very windy, but so much nice place to see glaciers, and amazing. It's a peak. It's a must if you like nature and being in the wild.
Hmm.
So we stay in another year in Europe, driving from as north as Sweden, as south as Sicilia in Italy. Uh, to the east side, we went to all the way to Turkey, and also on the west side to Portugal. We finished in London. In London, we put the car in a container. We ship it again to South Africa. We stay another year in Africa, mostly southern area and east area, like Kenya, Tanzania,
Hmm.
uh, We did like in South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. A lot of wide games, a lot of safaris with our own car or whatever. We had a great time, like being to the bush. Then we shipped the car from Kenya to India to Mumbai,
Wow.
and that's a funny story here that a lot of people that we talked before, people who has done that before, they said don't send your car to India. And I was like, why? And they said, no man, it's like it's so bureaucratic, it's
Yeah.
so much, so much confused.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. Bitrefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries, including the USA, Canada, all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. I can believe it. I can believe it was quite a mission getting it out of the port.
So they said to me, don't send your car, just skip it, go to Thailand, whatever. And I was like, I know, man, I'm doing that for 3 years. Like, I've been to Africa, I crossed the whole Central America. Like, if it is just paperwork, I can manage. If it's not safe issue, then that's another story. But it's just like paperwork, I can make it. That was my first idea. Just to give a big picture, the most of the ports when you are doing customs and clearing the car,
Mm-hmm.
you can put it like 3 to 5 days max. 2 to 5, 3 to 5. It's less than a week, I can tell you. Then in less than a week, you get your car, you're good to go, you're clear to go. We get into India, like I remember that was January 1st, 2016. We went straight to the port next day, and there was no your car here, but you're gonna take a few days to unload it from the vessel, put in the back in the warehouse, then you can come here. Well, we took like 20 something days to take the car out of the container, and they want me to charge per day. And I have like to go into the port, I have to pick a taxi and like a 2 hours drive. My
Mm-hmm.
wife, she was the only woman into the port, like 10,000 guys. They were all looking to her. And they it's funny that as you have so many people in India, like billions now, is the most populous country in the world now, they don't have the same idea as privacy that we have here in the West. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't come too close to you, I don't keep staring you, I respect your space. They don't have this idea. I mean, I'm putting a general way, of course. So they will
I can
come to my
imagine it was quite a sight, you guys showing up in a taxi at the port of, which port was this?
that was the port of Mumbai. I mean, I have no clue of the
Mumbai
name.
port. That's probably a big port.
There was, and they were like coming to the office, and they were telling us, "No, let's have a tea," or they say, "Let's have a chai," which is a kind of Indian tea.
Yep.
And it was like the first day, okay, they are so generous. Okay, let's have a chai. And the second day was like, fuck the chai. I want my card because I realized that they didn't have the answer, so they was always telling me let's have a chai, and trying to get me gain some time and make me believe they were working, but actually they were not, and nobody have a clue where my car was and how to clear my car. So that was a nightmare. I completely regret sending my car to India. Um, Driving there was okay. I mean, it's a mess, but I was kind of used to. I have a big car compared to the most of the cars, so I was
And
like, this is my space. If you want to mess with me, that's a problem. I won't care. To
and the
the
car, is it still this old Defender, this Land Rover
At
Defender?
that time, yes. At that time, yes.
Wow. So
Was
you did all this in the Defender, all the way
exactly,
from
yes.
Argentina, all the
Hmm.
way up across America, over to
Hmm.
Europe, now through Africa, now into India, all in the same car?
All in the same car, the same plate from São
What?
Paulo. Yeah,
Same plates,
same
still
plates.
registered in Sao Paulo.
Yes. the same documents, and they were asking me the document. I gave the Brazilian one. They were like, "What?" I said, "That's a document," and I was paying from abroad to make
Right,
sure
of
there was an
course.
updating and have
Right.
the right ones. But most of the place, I mean, putting numbers, I was stopped by police many times in South and Central America. I stayed for 6 months in US. I wasn't stopped once. Never had a problem in US. I stayed for another year in Europe. I was stopped by police but once only. I think that was close to the Hungarian border, which is a EU, like a European Union border with
Sure,
another.
yeah.
And they were like, "Why are you here? Do you have a people inside the car?" No. And like a 3 minutes, you're good to go. I was stopped many times in Africa. I remember in Tanzania, I even know the officers already. I know the guards because they were hiding behind the bushes, and there was like a place that you could not drive faster than, let's say, 25 miles per hour. And there is no sign, there's nothing telling me to do so. And I was passing at 27 miles per hour, and they were jumping from the bush, like into the middle of the street, say, "Stop the car." And I was, "Ah, no, man, you again. I talked with you yesterday." And they said, and they were trying to bribe, they want bribery. They want me to give money. And I was like, "I have no money. Look at me, and I'm a photographer. I live in the car." And I was giving so much hard time
I
with those
live in the
guys
car.
that they was like, "Okay, just go. Get out of here."
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
so yeah, so we made it through India all the way to Myanmar. Then we drove into
wow.
Thailand, Laos,
Wow.
Cambodia, Malaysia, and went to Singapore. Then we left the car in Malaysia and a Brazilian friends, the guys we met through Facebook, whatever.
Hmm.
And then we did like by plane, uh, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan. We went to North Korea. We went to Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam. Most of the countries that was hard to go by car. And at that point, we were like, "I know, I don't want to put my car in a container again."
Right,
The
right.
car,
All
the
these
car was
islands
falling
makes
apart.
sense.
Yeah, and the car was tired as well. I mean,
Yeah, I want to hear about this car more in detail. I'm sure you could talk for days about your car. Another theme I wanted to mention before we get off the topic is I imagine your background in Brazilian bureaucracy prepared you pretty well for this journey compared to maybe a American or Canadian attempting the same journey that doesn't know the street smarts.
mm, listen, I was like terrified when the guy ninja said to me, "Hey, you think you had a hard time to clear a car ninja? Why don't you send it to Brazil?" The Indian guy told me that. I was like, "Son of a bitch, he knows my country." Like, because yeah, man, if you send if you're shipping a car to Brazil, it's a nightmare. So I mean,
Hmm.
but
I've heard that people they'll ship it to Uruguay
that's what
instead.
I
Usually,
did.
yeah.
That's what I did. I'm a Brazilian. I have a Brazilian car with documents updated. I shipped it to Uruguay, and I drove into Brazil through the border, which is was completely easy. But I have friends now that I shipped back to Brazil, and they're 2 3 months trying to clear the car. But answering your question, definitely. When you grew up here, you have to learn to deal. Now you guys are you're catching up in terms of inflation, but things are here changed so quickly. We change our government, change everything regarding money, regarding inflation. A bit more stable now, but in the last 30 years, things are a bit more. That was a bit crazier in the 90s, the
Yeah,
80s,
big
but
swings.
I mean, try to go to the I don't know, get a government paper. It's a crazy time that you spend. Nobody knows what a public serve. They don't know how to serve you. So definitely, when you're traveling to Latin America or traveling to Africa, it's a knowledge that it's well fit to remind you. Okay, it won't be faster as you should be. You should be more patient. It won't work like that. But if you get into like a New York mindset, I don't know, or German mindset, that everything works, and you think that's gonna be the what you're gonna find during this trip, that's a nightmare for you. But you're gonna end a lot of things. You're gonna learn a lot of things. That's the The
Yeah,
journey
I
is
like
gonna.
that. If you're gonna travel the world by car, adopt a Brazilian mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, it's more like you're gonna have to be flexible to do that, no matter where you come from. Because I got friends from Germany, I got friends from US, I got friends from Argentina or Europe doing that. And at the end of the day, they working out being more like you, patient, that's when they say that the road gonna teach you something. That's the things that you learn,
Hmm.
how not to rush. So if I'm going to cross a border today, I'm gonna leave early. I'm gonna make sure I have plenty of time to cross whatever border it was, because even US, when you get into the US, in Tijuana border, they want to check the car. They want to check if you got, any fresh foods to put away. They want to make sure where you go. They want to make, oh man, that's a,
Yeah, can we run through that checklist actually? I think that's pretty useful. And as a side note, I'm like low key mentally preparing to do the trip down to Argentina, like driving all the way down to the Pan American Highway. So I really mentally think about this a lot and like what car to get, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, border
well,
checklist. Go in the
well,
morning.
yeah, yeah. Don't try to do many things in that day. Try to be very precise. Okay, have a border and cross
'Cause
today. Just make the border.
And sorry, and just to further push your authority here, you've crossed by land with a car and by air like 100 plus borders. I'm
Uh,
sure some multiple times. And crossing with a car is a lot harder.
Well, we have to separate in two things. It's harder. It takes more time because it has more people. I mean, get into the US sometimes. You got those fucking crazy lines and into the border, and they make questions to you as well. So you have to understand that you and the car, they are separate things. All right. So
Mm,
you're gonna be through the same as questions and whatever you take when you get into a different country as a person. Okay, so why you here, you get a visa or not, or depending what the passport you're traveling with, where you're going, and how you pay this trip, how many time you want to stay in this country. So this is the question for you, the person. And then the car, we have to go through custom. And this is not very hard because you have to remember there's so many trucks crossing borders all the time carrying goods. So we're gonna fit much as those trucks. So they're gonna let you be in a country for 3 months or 6 months max. It's gonna be kind of the same as your visa. If you can be in Costa Rica for 3 months, they're gonna let your car be in Costa Rica for 3 months. So it's more like that. So the thing which is
mhm.
different, they have like what they call the sanitary control. So they want to make sure you're not carrying any disease to the other country. So let's say Panama, for example. I remember Panama to Costa Rica. They open everything in my car. They want to make sure if you got any fresh foods, if I don't have any eggs, or if I don't have whatever, I have to put it away. I think it was the same. Get into the US because leaving the US is easier. They don't care anything. You just cross the border, say, "Oh, I'm out. I'm Mexico, or I'm in Canada." It's very easy like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I've definitely heard no fresh fruit.
Yeah, so I mean, no firearms, no, the basic things, no bombs, no things like that. But being a normal people, have your documents, updated passport with lots of days of expiring dates. Make sure your car it's not carrying fresh food. Make sure you get the papers that it may need it, and make sure you register a car when you get in and you are getting out,
Yeah.
because this is the problem. Sometimes that's happened to me. I get into Mexico, I paid like a bond, I think $300, and I was getting this money back when I was leaving Mexico. The problem was when I was getting close to Tijuana border, I missed the custom in Mexico and I went straight into the US. And then I saw myself in California and I have to go back to Mexico to get my money back. So that was a nightmare. I have to drive back to Mexico and make the border again. And the guys in the custom US were like, "Why are you doing the border again? I saw you come early in the morning, then you're doing this in the afternoon." And I have to explain myself like why I was doing that. And so, like I said, save a lot of time for the border. Don't try to rush. Try to get early in the morning. Bring some water. Bring some food, and say, all right. If it takes 5 hours or 3 hours or 2 hours, whatever it takes, don't rush it, because once you cross the border, then okay, that's another chapter. But once you're there, people are gonna try to sell you like insurance that you don't need. They're gonna try to sell whatever service that you may need. So it's a bit confused. So try to be very into that moment. Like
Hmm.
it's not danger, but it's a bit confused. That's what I
Yeah.
I want to
Could you
say.
talk a little bit about those border services where there's like fixer guys that can help you get through faster sometimes? They know the guys, they know the system. You pay them a
Well,
little bit of money, they can make things work
uh,
faster.
I,
Sometimes it's a scam. I don't know.
yeah, I think nowadays you got so much information on the internet. There is no need to use those guys. I mean, if you're telling me that you're crossing the border between, I don't know, Egypt and Libya, which is a country in war, that probably there's no one crossing the border, no one, then it's a different story, because you're gonna need someone to help you to understand. But if you're crossing a border, like I said, you are alongside so many trucks, so many people doing that. You just have to follow them. And most of the places, there's signs saying, because like I said, you're gonna have to go through your personal documents and the car documents. There's only those two steps. Once you clear your car, you're gonna clear your documents, or vice versa. You don't need someone to say, come in here, come in that. Or if you decide going to use a fixer, make sure you arrange the price before. So how much I'm gonna pay you for this service? Yeah, it's $20. All right, you good with that? I'm good with that. Because what they do, they're gonna offer you help. They won't discuss how much you have to pay, and then they're gonna charge you $100. And if you
Right,
don't
right.
pay,
Yeah,
they're gonna
price
bring
up
so
front.
many people. Yeah, they're gonna hassle you. With so many people around you, they're gonna push you, feel a bit unsafe, and you don't wanna this kind of feeling during the boarding cross. That's my opinion.
Got it. And it's weird because some countries you need insurance, some you don't, some you buy it online, some you buy it, you have to buy it at the border.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, but that was quite hard in the past. I think nowadays there's so many people doing it, so you can make your homework, put an Excel, put in a paper, say, oh, if I'm going to Colombia, I have to buy I think it's SOT, the name HOAT, something like
Mhm.
that. And that works for Colombia and Ecuador and Peru, for example. If I'm driving to Chile, Brazil, and in Argentina, there is the green letter, something called, like, in Portuguese, the Carta Verde. So I don't remember by heart anymore, but I mean, I remember you can easily find this on the internet, and you can buy them in the border itself. There is probably a kiosk or something that sells. It's
Okay.
not
That's
hard.
comforting. It's
Yeah, it's
yeah, that's
it's easy.
comforting knowing it's easy these days.
I, considering your plan when you say driving from US to the Patagonia, I think what you have to keep in mind is more like, do not drive in the night. It's more
Hmm.
safety. It's more regarding safety than bureaucracy. That's my opinion. I wouldn't be so worried regarding crossing the border, as long as you do, like I said, go early in the morning, do what you have to do, no rush, bring some cash, uh, pay what you have to pay, and that's it. But if you're driving at night, you got a flat tire, and someone stop by to help you, you never know if someone who wants to steal you, or somebody who really wants to help you. That's gonna make you feel uncomfortable. So we were I was like in a situation with my wife that if we had a problem, safety problem, that would be the end of the trip. My wife would say, for me, it's done, let's go back. So we have to be very careful to make sure we never cross the line of feeling so much insecure, or feeling so much unsafe, that was not we I mean that we would say, let's go back home instead of keep traveling.
Hmm.
So we were not driving the night. We were always carrying some cash, US dollars or euros, to make sure if you had a problem, just put the car aside in the road. I stop someone and say, I get $200, help me with that. Pay extra dollars to someone to help you. We were carrying extra spare parts of the car. So we were like, that was a risk adventure, but we were trying to mitigate most of the things that could go wrong, mostly during the day regarding safety. And
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
be
yeah.
my advice for you as well if you are doing anything through Central America and South America.
Hey everybody, hey everybody. Quick break from the podcast to tell you about Language Blend, the best new way to learn Spanish. Language Blend was co-founded by Jake Nomada, friend of the podcast, decade of experience in Latin America, and Jake and his team, they put everything into this program that they wish they had in terms of how to level up quickly with your Spanish language skills. Because the faster that you can get conversationally fluent in Spanish, the better the experience that you're going to have in Latin America. So go to languageblend.com for more information. Yeah. What was your breakdown between, I guess, raw camping versus paid campsites versus maybe taking some time off
Hmm.
and going in the hotel, stuff like that?
Yeah. We stayed for almost 4 years, like I said, traveling the world. So we put it then in the big number. We stayed 1 year at campings most of the time, 1 year in hotels or like bed and breakfast, mostly in Southeast Asia. That was so cheap and that was so hot to camping. There was no point of being in the tent with 35. I have no clue in Fahrenheit, but I'd say 17 something, like very hot, hot
Yeah.
enough not to sleep in the tent. And a nice hotel in Thailand was like $25 a night. It was like there's no point of being in the car. And the other third, we stay in friends and people house because when we left, remember that I told you we got a lot of attention from media.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, we got a lot of followers in Facebook. We got like 500,000 followers in less than 6 months in Facebook at that time. And most of those people, they were living abroad, and they were come to our Facebook say, hey, I live in Dallas, for example, and if you come by to Dallas, you stay in my house. I live in Santa Barbara in California. I live in Taiwan. I got so many invitations from different places in the world. And you were like, wow, that's a good, it's a good thing to meet people, to learn how they live and get into more the cultural, more like a shortcut. Because we were doing that so many different places, so many different cities, so many different cultures that you don't get, you may get very shallow sometimes. You do not spend 3 or 4 months. So being someone who lives in that place was definitely shortcut for us. So the breakdown was like a year in camping, and that was a mix of white camping, because we were like, we want to have shower, we don't want to be so wild. If you have to, that's fine, but most of the time we make sure every 2 days we stop by a camping to have a shower. And so remember, we were city people, we were not like fair educators people. The other year we stayed in hotels and bed and breakfast, and the other year mostly in people's house, which was for us the best part of the trip, being with so much different people, meeting so many nice people, to see how they live.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so kind, they get a day off in the work, they took us to go around. There's people that we came to stay for 3 days. I remember there's a family in Nairobi, which is Kenya's capital, and they were friend of a friend of a friend. They have no clue who you were, and they accept to have us for 3 days only. And when we get there, we had such a nice time with them, and we end up staying for a month in his house, and we became friends until today. We traveled together during the time we were in Kenya. We had dinner, so we were very open to that as well, not being only we have to drive, but how to enjoy, how
Mm-hmm.
to make it a bit more slowly and more like into the places.
Mm-hmm. Did you try to leverage the Brazilian diaspora quite a bit, like Brazilian Facebook groups,
Hmm.
stuff like that? And you're kind of crashing with like that one Brazilian guy in Moldova type thing.
Well, we used a lot of the Facebook at that time. The Instagram was still picking up. We were like, okay, there's another social media. Let's focus on Facebook. But I never used the groups, but they were coming to us. And like, I have an interesting story regarding Taiwan and China.
Uh-huh.
We got an invitation for a couple, Brazilian couple in Taiwan, which is Taiwan is probably the one of the farthest place from Brazil because it's completely in the other side of the world and also in the north area of the world. We are in the south. So I mean, a straight line is probably the farthest place from Brazil. And then we met them. We stayed with them for a few days, and the lady, she was crying because she said, "We live so far from Brazil that we never get guests here. Nobody from your family ever came over to stay here because it's like a 35 hours travel. Like you have to stop in Dubai, you have to stop somewhere else and somewhere else." So that was a funny story, like to be with someone, and they were so sensitive because we were there, and for me it was just another house, another person that we stay over, but for them it was like it's the first time someone come Brazil come over a house. They can, so they were cooking special meals, and they want to take us everywhere. They were so happy and they were crying because we were gonna leave, and we felt like more, wow, we really touched those people at that time. So, and that happens quite a few times around the world.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Wow.
So,
And a lot of these early adventures or the whole car adventure was done before having kids, right?
mhm,
Okay. And just so I understand, so after the 4-year car journey, which I have a million more questions about, but after that, it's another 6 years of being abroad. And
mhm,
what did you do after you moved after 4 years of moving out of the
mhm.
car?
When you come back to Brazil in early 17, we were publishing our fourth book, and so we stayed for a while here, like promoting the book, and we did a lot of speakers for our public, for different companies. So we were like, are we getting back to the bank, or we want to keep traveling? And I even got like an interview in a nice Swiss bank that was nice money, and my wife said,
Mm,
I don't want to stay in Brazil anymore. I saw how the world is diverse. I saw how it's much safer, and you don't have it's nothing to do with, being a rich country or being a poor country, because there's so many poor countries as well in Asia, which is safer than here. And I said, all right, so let's keep traveling. And but if we're doing this in a full-time job, like, okay, we don't have the bank anymore, we're not considering going back to the financial market, let make this something that can pay our bills as well. So that's when we brought our corporate background and said how we can make this a proper project. So that's when we came close to Microsoft. They were sponsoring us. We got a lot of different sponsors. Like we became ambassadors for the North Face in Brazil. So we were joining like our culture from
nice.
the banking with the thing of have so many followers. So we became influencers without knowing that we were becoming influencers, but always with this corporate layer, trying to be more into the big companies. And so we kept traveling. Um like I said, we did like 127. We did that half with the car and half without the car. So after 2017, we were seeing which places we want to go that we didn't. So we went to Canada, which a country we haven't been. We did all the islands in the Caribbean area. We did like Iceland, we did Japan, we did South Korea. So all the countries that we left behind during the car
Mhm.
trip, we went to Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, most of those Central Asian country, and then by different means, like we did it like by train. We crossed the whole Canada by train. We did a lot of places in Caribbean by boat.
Mhm.
We crossed the Kazakhstan by truck in our overland travel. Like it's a company who put
That's cool.
every that was terrible. Like when in high summer, there was 53 Celsius, which might be as hot as the Death Valley it is in the summer. People were fainting and dehydrating. That was terrible, but that was cool. Uh, so yeah, so we stayed there until 2020. 2020, everybody knows what happened to the world. We couldn't travel anymore. That time we were already living in Portugal. We bought a place in Portugal, so we were doing half time in Brazil, half in Portugal, and putting all the other places in between. We tried to have a kid, we miscarried. We try again, we miscarriage again. Am I saying right that word, miscarriage? I never use that word in English
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
you lose the baby. I miscarried, and so it was like 2 3 years, between pandemia and also the things relating to having a baby. And then we were blessed with our daughter in July 2021. And then we start traveling again. We went to Barcelona with her by car, and we were living in Portugal at that time. So she knows everything between Portugal and Spain. So we went to a lot of islands in Europe with her, like we never been, like Madeira Island or the Canary Island. We went to Romania, to Hungary. So that's the breakdown: 4 years by car, 3 4 years by plane, by whatever means, and then come to the lockdown, change the folks a little bit, have the baby. Now I have another baby getting in the next 2 months. So we still traveling, but now we founded another company. We have a startup now, saving a problem into the creators economy.
Hmm.
So we're still traveling, but we're more into the business. We're focusing, have the second baby. So it's a blurry time now in our life regarding traveling.
Yeah, thank you for all that. That's a hell of a story, and I really like how you went the commercial route, got some meetings in Sao Paulo, and got the sponsorship from North Face and stuff like that. Do you have gear with like both logos, like a North Face logo and a Viajo Logo Existo logo?
I have only a thermal bottle. You know those thermal bottles? Is that the right name? The ones that you put in
Yeah,
like a tea and they stay hot for 24 hours,
yeah,
things like that.
thermos.
It's the only one that I have with North Face on one side and Viaggio Logo Existo on the other one. But I don't have like uh, any
That's
other
cool.
product.
No, you got some. That's good. That's good. So Viaggio Logo Existo, when did this stuff come about in terms of this brand and the influencers stuff? Were you doing that during the 4 years? Like how far back does it go?
Well, the name itself, to have the blog mentality, yes. When we were quitting the bank, we said, let's make a blog and make sure we put everything that we learned, because that was fucking hard to know how to travel the world by car at that time. There's no like a one place to read everything about it. We get a like different books. Like there's a book called Overland Bible, I think, the Overland
Hmm.
Guidebook, the Bible. So we have to buy that in Amazon US, send it to Brazil, and there's not so much in Portuguese. So at that time we were like, let's make a blog and we make sure we put everything that we learned into the blog. And that when Viajo Logo Existo uh, come alive. But I have no expectation of making money on it. So by the end of the first year, we decided to make e-commerce in the blog. But
Hmm.
all the pictures, because remember that I said I was into photography before, like I was doing surf trips, I was taking pictures. So I always like take pictures. I always like, writing to magazine, but it was something outside of the bank, like something that was not making money, but I was happy doing that. So people was like, oh, I like your pictures, I like the angle, I like the colors, why don't you make some posters to sell it? And then I said, all right, let's sell the posters, but all the money we're gonna give to philanthropy. We don't want to stay with the money. You just pay the taxes and the net revenue, the net profit, we're gonna donate to the NGO. And then we did it, but we figured out that everybody who bought the poster, they were not really buying to help the NGO. They thought they were helping us. I mean, they were not caring about the where the money was going, if it was staying with me or if it was going to an NGO. And then I remember that was late 2013. We did like a survey with in your Facebook, and we got like 22, I think 21,000 replies. And people are saying, we want you to make a book, and I want you
Hmm.
to, that can cost whatever, $100. So that was the first time that I said, all right, we have a deal here, we have money here to make. And during the 4 years by car, even though we were making the books, we did like a crowdfunding, so we raised about $100,000 to make the 4 books. And even though we were producing, selling the books, making money to pay the trip. We never took it like a business. We were like, okay, it's money to pay the trip. But at that time, we got like Airbnb, Expedia, we got like Skyscanner.
Hmm.
Most of those foreigners companies in Brazil, they were understanding how the influence works. And they were coming to us and say, hey, you're going to have the World Cup in 2014 in Brazil. The Airbnb told us, I want to sponsor you, exchange you to talk about us. And I was like, well, okay, how much you can pay me? I don't know, $1,000. That's fine. That's pay half of my bills in the month. So even though we were into this influence world, we were getting attention from those brands. I think only 2017, when we come back to Brazil, that we say, now we are becoming creators. Now we have a proper business. Until then was more like me and Rachel, we want to go see the world. We want to go and live. The other thing, we never bothering buying internet into those places. So it's very important to say that most of the times we were offline, and that's because you
Hmm.
wanted. Because if I had a SIM card in my telephone, I'll be so much connected to Brazil, what was happening in politicians, or what happened in the financial market, what was happening with my friends. And I think that would take away my energy that I should be spending in Tanzania, for example, in
Hmm.
Zambia, for example.
Hmm.
So until that time, we were creating content, we were making some money with the brands, we were making money with the books, but we were like, this is more about us. And then 2017, we said, okay, now we are for real. Let's focus on how to make money, how to keep traveling. But we have to pay our bills with this money as well. We have to make profit. That was more like a business mentality.
I love it. And for the listeners out there, so their website is excellent in terms of country guides, city guides, tons of free guides, actually similar to how we have them on mylatinlife.com. So you guys have like kind of where to stay, what time of year to visit, all this different information for a Portuguese speaking audience. I think it's great. And you have obviously a very well navigable website and just tons of value here for sure.
Thanks, man.
Um,
Thanks, man. That was a lot of work of myself on that thing.
yeah, it's huge. And then of course, 130 some odd podcasts that you guys have produced, 250 YouTube videos, 33,000 subscribers on YouTube. Instagram's 185,000 subscribers, 900 posts. So yeah, I mean, you've definitely built it up.
There's another 600 yet thousand in Facebook.
There
They
you
still.
go.
I mean, Facebook. It's kind of we don't know where they're going to, but they still there. They're nice people. When I show up there, they get very glad to see my
Yeah.
daughter, to see how she's growing up, and they're cute people. My uncles and my grandpas in Facebook.
I mean, this is like wholesome Facebook content. It's like traveling with the kids. It's like very family oriented. It's great.
Mm, yeah, we feel that now that we have the second babe coming over, that they get really anxious just to know how we're growing up the family and how we are keep traveling. That's a very keen question for lots of people. How are you gonna make when you have kids? How are you gonna make when
Hmm.
you have kids and cannot travel anymore? They think that because you have kids you're gonna be stuck in a place, and definitely it's harder, definitely requires more plan, requires more more energy. That's how I feel. But you can keep traveling. There's so much people doing good things with kids around the world regarding traveling by car, by RV, by plane, by
Hmm.
train. I mean, it's more about doing your research, finding and figure out how they do it. And when you have kids, it's not the end of anything. Even mostly when you want to have kids, like in your case. So we are super glad, and we are so glad to take her to different place. We just come back to Argentina. We drove into the end, the mountain range, the ends, and she's just having so much fun walking around and see all the mountains. And it's a different perspective. Like I said, it's much slower nowadays, but definitely as good as it was when we were traveling by car or anything else.
Yeah, would love to get more of your perspectives on traveling while parenting, and I guess with this, incredible experience that you've had, it's I'm sure impacted your views on raising kids and how to raise them, the best way that you see fit. What are some of your philosophies around that?
Well, it's just like I said, you have to keep traveling, keep finding people. There's so much nice people in the world, so much things to see. So that's how I take. That's my philosophy. Try to connect with the right people. Be open to help. Be available. And it's hard nowadays. So much things to do. Like time for my family, to my kids, for the new company, for the Viajo Logo Existo itself. But in the end of the day, it's more like how you connect with people, like you're talking now. That's my philosophy. It's how I try to take my life, mixing up, balancing all those demands that being a 39 years old man, with father of one, with another one comes, so that there's responsibility on that. So it's how you balance that, and surfing, playing tennis, and try to make the things that I like as well. So my philosophy is enjoy the life, more like that, with responsibility, and you can mix it up everything. That's how it
Hmm.
takes.
So the kids are a little bit young now, but how do you think about giving them, a stable home versus maybe homeschooling or world schooling, and having them kind of, or have like a private tutor, or
Hmm.
would you want to have them like in a fixed location where they can have like kind of lifelong friends, or would
Hmm.
you have them, bring them around all different
Hmm.
places and have them experience different cultures? It's kind of a balance, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of this question, but we have this very clear. We want her to have a place to grow up. I was blessed to have studied in the same school all my years, so I still have many friends from when I was 5 years old until today. So, and they are the boundary, they are the backbone of a lot of things in my life, and so we want them to have this kind of relationship. We would love to take them on holidays, to bring them to Brazil, to the other countries, like we do, but we're not considering doing homeschooling, or we want them to, like I said, we have a place in Portugal, and we are very happy to be there. We are flying back to Portugal next Sunday. My second baby is going to be born there as well. My grandparents, they were Portuguese, so we are Portuguese citizenships as well. And in this case, we want them to grow up there, to have friends. Of course, I mean, you cannot predict everything. The future is so much. In your case, we do have business in Brazil. We want to keep traveling. My wife the other day said, I would love to make RV traveling around the world with the kids, but I think I want them to go to school, make friends, and when they're whatever 16, 17, finish school, if they want to go travel the world, I'll be very supportive. And but that's gonna be their decision, not my decision. I feel a
Hmm.
bit like I don't want to kidnap their golden years. Like now, they I mean, until 6 years old they'll be fine, 5, 6 years old. But after then, I don't want to grow up then traveling the world, then push them back into a normal society. And they say, "How are you gonna live here, Daddy? Like I've been traveling, I've been meeting people everywhere. I lived in a boat for 6 months. Then you bring me in a city, say I have to be here. I have to be happy here, going to a school and see someone every single day." And so I think it's much easier for them to catch up into the traveling whatever dream
Okay. So
than the other way around.
normalize
Yeah,
society
yeah.
life instead of wild
Well,
in the bush
some
life.
I would say some small, whatever you can put into to make them more open mind, but are not growing up then into the unique way of life, which is traveling the world by car, I would say.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. So school in Portugal. What's your favorite spot in Portugal? Like what region or the country are we talking?
We live in Cascais, which is about 15 minutes from Lisbon, which is the beach area, like the more not which we love because we are close to Lisbon, we are close to the airport, so it's really easy to us. If you got a friend, for example, doing a stopover in Lisbon, it's super easy for me to go with them and have a coffee, or because we were afraid of moving to Europe, which is far away from my friends, from far away from my family, and if you're living in a place which not easy to reach, you're gonna lose connection with the people that you love. I mean, would be harder to come to Brazil, would be harder to meet people when they are traveling to Europe or to Lisbon, for example. So being around Lisbon, it's tricky for us that we can whatever. If you are flying to Lisbon, I can go and have a dinner for you with you, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, I've been to Cascais. Take the
all right,
train. It's super easy.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, super nice. Got the beaches nearby. You got the port there. It's good.
I live somewhere in between there. I don't live in Cascais, the
Hmm.
touristy area, which is too touristic for us. But at Cascais, it's a 8, 9, I think 5 miles long beach area. We live in, very close to the beach. Good surf, good weather, lots of sun the whole year. Nice people. So speak Portuguese wouldn't be a problem. Be another language, but we have so much things to do with the culture, the food. So it's definitely easier for us. It's incredible how the scene of nomad people in Portugal is growing up. Like there's so many nice co-workings now in Lisbon, some in Cascais, but at central Lisbon, there's so much nice things happening. So much, there are a lot of US people coming. I mean, that was happening for other countries as well, but I got a lot of friends from California moving to there now.
Hmm.
So it's funny that it's it's getting more cosmopolitan, it's more multicultural, and I like it because you get. I'm not traveling, but I still have the sense of I'm connecting with different people with different backgrounds. So
Hmm.
that's something cool about the movement. What's happening now in Portugal?
Yeah, I love Portugal. We're definitely big fans of Portugal at My Latin Life. It's kind of our go-to European spot, I would say, with like the best balance.
Yeah, I'm suspicious to say. I bought a place there. I want to grow my kids there. So, I mean, there are some challenges. It's a small country, but we wanted that. I mean, it's more country life for us in Cascais. It's more like I don't have to get the car to drive the car every day. I can do a lot of things, by walking. So, close to the beach, and like I said, the weather is amazing. Got like 300 days of sunny weather. So but for a lot of people it's just too quiet, just too nothing happening, mostly in Cascais. Lisbon is a bit more alive,
Hmm.
so it's if you have to work in there, the economy is a challenge, the wages are low, so it's amazing country if you can make money abroad and live there, for nomads, for example.
That's definitely what we all aspire to do and what we push our audience to do, geo arbitrage.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Hey guys, quick interruption to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill is the best way to convert your crypto into gift card balances. These are gift cards that you can spend at hotels.com, Airbnb, Nike, and many more. You may remember Joel Valenzuela, a previous podcast guest. He's been living on crypto exclusively since 2015, and he's a big consumer of Bitrefill. And so I asked Joel, I said, what do you like most about Bitrefill? He said that he likes the instant delivery, the precise amount so that you don't have to juggle a lot of gift cards, and he loves the global selection. Nobody else has this much selection of gift cards, over 10,000 gift card options across hundreds of countries. Go to bitrefill.com to sign up, and you can also use the code MyLatinLife for 10% back off your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Random question. I wanted to ask about what happened to the car. I wanted to make sure to just know, like, that's what we all want to know. So that you left the car in Malaysia, how did you get it back to Brazil? Is the car still in your possession? Did you sell it? What's the story? Where's it at?
All right. Yeah, no, I brought it back to South America. Like I flew back to Malaysia, got it, put in a container, shipped to Uruguay, and then we drove into Brazil. There was a big celebration the day we come back. There was like a very symbolic thing that we left by car and we come back by car alive and still married. So people are like, come on, they made it. so so we wanted to bring it back. So for many months at the time we were doing like this, the promoting the book, early 2017, we did a lot of speakers for companies here in Sao Paulo. The car stayed in front of my daddy's house, dripping oil in the pavement. There's so, I mean, we could, until today, it's been what, 6 years. If you look into into the pavement, into the asphalt, you can see a lot of marks of oil. That's from my car 6 years ago. And we decided to sell. There is no reason to keep it. Uh, what ended up being a terrible investment decision, because they stopped producing that car globally, and whoever has old Land Rover Defender, they just saw the price double in the last year. So because there's no more cars
Right.
in the market, so if you have one, it's a nice quality, it's well,
Collector's
uh,
item. It kind of looks like a Jeep.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of. But at that time we sold like for the same price we bought it. Now it's three or four folds, three or four times that we
Wow.
paid, and I was like, wow. I mean, I
Which
couldn't
year?
picture.
Which year model again?
17. The model was 2005, and there was a reason for that, like because it was so overvalued. In Brazil, at least until 2006, the Defender they were producing, there is no technology, there is no computer. There was a raw car, like more like a tractor, more like a bus.
Mm-hmm.
The models after 2006, it became more sophisticated, it became more computers. And that was when you're traveling a long distance, that may be a problem, because if I'm
Right.
here in Sao Paulo, that's easy, I can just drive by a Land Rover, car dealer, and they fix. But if I'm crossing Zambia, for example, in Africa, and I have a car which is very sophisticated, no one gonna know how to fix. And so everyone is really keen to the models prior 2006,
Makes sense.
and in Brazil at least, because that changed from country to country. In Europe is a bit older, etc.
Dude, this thing looks super cool. I'm looking at photos of it now. Did you have the two door or the four door?
The four door, it's the 110 model, what they call the Defender 110. And so yeah, so we sold it August 2017 for a guy here. They pay us with money and some airline points that we have to use to keep traveling. And yeah, people said we should keep it car forever and things like that, but I've never been so attached for nothing. So and that's it, the story of the car. That
Yeah.
was an important part of, but just gone.
Was it easy enough to get it serviced around the world? Like you must have had some pretty interesting experiences trying to work with mechanics in foreign languages.
Well, I mean, overall, yes, that was easy because, like I said, the car was really simple to work. So, if the mechanic has a basic knowledge of how to operate like the old trucks or like a tractor, like if they understand the basic of mechanics, they most of the case they work it out. But we
Hmm.
have a very interesting situation in Morocco, in northern Africa. We had a like the day we were, I think the day after we crossed from Spain to Morocco, we saw like something was dripping from the car, like and we figured out that was the water from the engine, like I don't know how to say that in English, but the thing, the water compartment. And also, then we went to a big city. Say, okay, we have to find someone to fix. We do have the spare part for that, because when we were starting traveling with this car, we talked with so much experts, and they said you're gonna have problems with alternator, you're gonna have problems with the water pump, you're gonna have problems with this and that. So we try to be cautious to always have these spare parts with us, to make
Hmm.
sure if you had a problem, just need someone to manufacture the problem, to make the service, and not to have the parts, because it
Right.
was harder to find the parts and not to someone to fix. Okay, so when you were in Morocco, you get this problem, and we met two mechanics that they were like, not sure if they were really mechanics, but they were keen to help, and they have to kind of they put apart the whole engine, and that was terrible. Like I was sending pictures to my mechanic in Brazil, and he was crying, said, no, don't let they do that, don't let they do that. But they didn't speak English. I do not speak French or Arabic either. neither. So I have a very basic knowledge of French. So was we couldn't communicate. In the end, I have to fix. And they were trying to be nice. They were trying to do the job, but well, we were in a hotel, like kind of in the parking of the hotel. They opened the whole engine. We got all the oil split in the floor. So they get the towels from the hotel, and there was put into the oil thing. That was like a completely mess. My wife was crying, like, "Oh, what they're doing with the car? We won't keep traveling, blah blah blah." And but like again, after a few months, you understand that again. Do not rush. Be patient. You cannot overreact to the situation. Like we have a place to stay, we have things to eat, we have not we have like a proper place to spend the night. So relax, we're gonna figure out the solution. That's how it takes when you travel the world. And the worst case, we always ask ourselves, are we gonna die? That was the key question. No. If we're not going to die, so how are we gonna fix it? How are we gonna solute? How are we gonna find the solution? Then we start to think more proactive, more driving to the solution. Because some situations in the traveling, like when you were in DRC, into Congo in Africa with bodyguards carrying AK-47 all the time with us. When you ask like, are we gonna die? Say there is a chance. So in this situation, you have to be very on. You have to pay attention to everything. You have to be careful where you go and what we are doing. But most of the other problems that you have in the road, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's gonna be hard to fix. It's gonna be hard to find a solution, but there's ways to find it. So be patient. Try to be objective. Try to think more how you're gonna fix it, and you're gonna figure out something. But you're not gonna die. You cannot die. That's the whole thing. You have to come back alive. That's how we always say is that in our traveling.
Yep, come back alive. Good
Yeah.
tips. Good tips.
Sounds like very cliche, but you have to keep this in mind.
Any regrets from 4 years
Mm,
on the road, 10 years in total, kind of outside of Brazil? Any regrets reflecting on the past 10 years?
not really. I mean, I could take this into investment decisions, but that's waste of time. If I had other visions regarding some investments that I made in the past, but I know regarding the whole thing, I probably into the minor things. I would say I should have, for example, when I was in Tanzania, my wife, for example, want to go into balloon ride, and I said, no, we cannot spend the money because we want to keep into the budget, and that money wouldn't make any change in our life because you have the money from the bank. So I think for the 4 years we were so much strict and how we could spend and how where to spend. Nowadays I say, oh, probably I'll be a bit more loose to spend some more money, some different attractions, and enjoy a little bit more some things that I probably never come back to that place. Some
Right.
countries, or like I was in Ukraine 2018. I stayed for a few days, for example, in Kiev, and I went to Chernobyl. Probably, and I left that days, and I say, oh, I can come back to Ukraine next year to make the other cities that I want, and now I cannot come back to Ukraine, for example. So probably be more in that perspective. Say, hey, stay for a few more days here, get it nice and done. The place that I want to go, even if it means you spend a little bit more, a few dollars here or that. But it's not a regret. It's more like something that you're looking back. You say, "Oh, I could have done that," but you cannot know that at that moment, right? So I turn out. I always say you always taking the best decisions that you can have now with the tools and knowledge that you have. It's not. It's kind of waste of time looking back into this perspective, in my opinion, of course.
Hmm. Yeah, I love the theme of someone that kind of had it all working in the finance sector in Sao Paulo, kind of the elite of the country, really, and someone who is in a pretty elite position who is willing to kind of give it up and go on an adventure and do something different, take the less beaten path.
Yeah.
And I think all of our listeners can really appreciate that that's just something. we innately have in us, and that at least me, I think about a lot. So that's incredible. Did you set any world records or major records being the first Brazilian to do this or that?
No, not that I'm aware. And I think now, at that time, I have no clue. But now I know if you want to go through into the Guinness Book, you have to let them know prior, and they're gonna give you a form that you have to fill it up. Every country, for example, you go, you have to have witness to make sure that you really made it. So for those people who wants to be, I want to be the youngest people traveling every country in the world, they have to fill a form every country they go and stuff. So it's a process. It's nothing that you go there, make it, and then you come back say I did it. It doesn't work like that. And I have no intentions when you were doing that. So even though I never came closer to get any record, but we never look into this angle as well.
Hmm.
Would be nice, but that would be nice, definitely. I'm not saying that.
And I know we're late in the episode, but I really just wanted to capture the feeling of what it's like to be overlanding and with the tent and all this type of stuff. We didn't
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
like kind of out of flow the episode to talk about the practicalities of this, but I just find it so interesting. So you have the tent on top, and for your car it looks pretty cool, the
Hmm.
2005 one, and it's like, did you get that one that like folds up on the angle? It's like a
Uh,
triangle tent.
yeah, I mean, it's a guy here who made it here. That's a professional guy here who made the tent. But when you say, it's funny that when you're talking about it, you taking me to different memories regarding the tent, and one which is really cool. I think the time we were in Africa was very memorable. I mean, we keep saying that was probably one of the best part of the trip, the whole thing, much better than Europe, much better than America itself, the whatever North America, Central America. It's another vibe, it's another place. And I mean, opening the tent every day, that was a queen size bed to get your perspective of size.
Hmm.
There was confident, lots of hostels and bed and breakfast we stayed. So from some place we were like, wow, it's better to be in the car than in those shitty beds in some hostels. And but I remember once we were camping in Botswana in a place called Kwai,
Hmm.
I think that's Kwai Reserve, which is it's a place to see the game, to see the animal, but there's no fence, there's no nothing. You camp. I think I pay $100 for the camping site. And at the time I got there, the guy said this is our place, which was definitely only a tree. There's nothing around, only a tree. And he said, you can camp in here. There's a number 6 close to the tree. So the whole thing about camping, I think the whole Botswana is like that, that you stay very close to the wild, which is different from South Africa, for example, that when you're camping, you have fence around
Hmm.
you, you are protected. So you know there's a lion won't show up to bother you at the night. They don't do it, so don't worry. So at the time in Botswana, we were doing breakfast. My wife was doing like whatever scrambled eggs,
In the
and
tent.
she's in the tent in the back of the
And
Land
sorry, the
Rover.
tent is on top of the car, or it's
It
like on
is
the
in the
ground?
it is in the top of the car. You
It's on the
open that
top of the
like a
car.
triangle, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
You open that, so the back half of the tent we use it as a cover to the back part of the car. So when you open the back door of the car, we have a little kitchen. If you put that in Google, like I think Viajo Logo Existo, and
Hmm.
go to images, you're probably gonna see that picture, which is we get the tent in the back, kind of covering the back door of the car. We embedded a little kitchen, a little oven into the back door. So we open that thing, and you can cook the whatever you need there, like a little oven. And that day, Rachel, my wife, was doing like a scrambled egg. We were doing like a normal breakfast for us, and she was, "There's two huge elephants just in front of us." And I was like, "Wow!" I got the camera. I got some pictures of her doing the eggs and the elephants kind of 100 meters away from us. kind of playing in a tree, and it was like a bit uncomfy because we were not sure if they were coming close or not. Luckily, they just went by. They never messed with us. But having that feeling of being so into the wild, no TV, no internet, no one around, just doing like a normal breakfast, and then two huge African elephants come close to you, and they were just whatever doing their business. They were not into us. Gave us like a perspective of where we were and what we were doing, but at the same time giving us as well the
A little afraid?
no, a bit afraid. No, not the elephant. They were not the elephant. They are not into. Actually, when you are in an ecosystem, in an environment that the animals they are balanced, they have their own food. It's well balanced. Like they know each other. They don't want to mess it up with the human because you're not from that environment. So they look at you and we're like, I'm not sure if I should mess with those whatever animals there are. They look at us and say, I better keep a distance. So they most of the Africa experience. Uh, I learned that they will not mess with us, the animals, only if they are, with their cubs. Only if you are in a
Right.
threatening position, you are put
No,
them
it
in a
makes sense.
corner.
What about like the bugs and all the weird sounds? Because when you're in the tent, like there's no walls. Like you're very exposed to everything, you know?
uh,
You just
you're,
hear every little thing at night and you're like, shit, like I can't even sleep.
I mean, you get used and you ended up liking it. The silence and the animals. You hear the hyenas. Ooh, you hear the lions and the ants. Things are happening into the bush. But you have
Oh
to.
my god.
But they won't mess with us. And the bugs and its stuff.
But
I
all
think
you have is like this flimsy tent basically like
exactly.
they just it doesn't it you know what I mean? It
Doesn't
doesn't
feel
seem
safe.
super
Yeah, doesn't
safe.
feel safe.
I
Yeah.
get that it is. I get that it is that like no tiger is gonna come and like slash at your tent, but and that you're a little bit off the ground, but my God, it's definitely must be a little bit trippy when you're in the jungle and there's like
Well,
crazy noises.
you won't think about it. Believe me, because I met so many people and they were camping into the ground, into the same place or sometimes in other place. I mean, but I mean the same situation. And once you go, for example, to South Africa, Namibia, they do have a lot of this culture of go camping. So get a car in the weekend, go to the middle of the bush and camping by themselves. So they are the proof that things doesn't happen by accident. I mean, if you let your tent open, if you are, for example, don't take your kid. For example, I'll never take my daughter of 2 years old to the safari because she is a prey for them. She may have problems at the night. They won't bother in our tent. But in a case that I missed something and she's not really protected, she may have a problem, which is different from the adults. So being the tent in the top of the car, we were like, we are super safe comparing to the other people that we saw camping in the ground. We know by the time that we're here, they don't mess it up with us. We have situations we have hyena coming very close to our fire camp in this place in the Kwai, Botswana, and I put the lights in the hyena. She went away, and we just went to the tent. We were very afraid that day. Of course, I was not calm as I am not as I am now. We just rushed into the tent, but again, they are more curious to understand who are you, what are you doing here, not like in the movies that they are planning to attack you at 0 point. They're more like, okay, you're here, I don't know you, I'm gonna make my business, you make yours, don't mess with me. So that's what I learned, at least for months and months doing safari in Africa. And if you haven't done, I really recommend someone who is listening or even you. It's a blowing
Hmm.
experience,
Hmm.
definitely.
Are there any small luxuries that made a big difference living in a car? Like things you could buy for under $100 or something that would maybe most people don't think about or that made the trip overall more enjoyable?
Wow, I think it's changed from place to place, but definitely having a proper what would you call in English the thing you put in your skin to like a block for the bugs, like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to call
Repellent,
a repellent. Yeah, that's exactly like in Portuguese. Sorry,
repellente.
repellent. Yeah, repellent. Have a nice one, a proper one for not being bothering with the. But I think nowadays you might have some things to be connected to the internet, like maybe a nice solar panel to recharge your things. Maybe a
Hmm.
little luxury. Didn't have this in your car, so I don't know. I don't know. I try to take my trips my traveling very simple. I mean, I'm more concerned to go there, take my camera. I'm not really making huge lists of things that I have to take. Mostly now. 10 years ago, maybe yes, I was searching every camping page in Amazon and try to see every single stuff that I could have it, because I was so afraid of I may need something like I carried for 4 years something that I was, if I was bite by a snake, I could be, have a proper first aid.
Hmm.
I never used it that. I came close to some snakes, but I never in a point to be bite. So even most lots of medicines that I took in because I could be that, it could be will or could get that disease, and then you figure out that you can buy that in any pharmacy around the world, so you don't have to carry those things. I mean, if you're very off the track, then you're right, you have to be more cautious. But if you're in Europe and most of the America, and if you're in Asia, Australia, you can buy it from some Amazon like website. They're gonna deliver for you in a few days. So I try to go very light nowadays.
I like it. I think that's part of the theme here is minimalism.
Mm,
You know, if I had to summarize some of your concepts, it's don't die, bring bug spray, be patient,
yeah, it's
be
important
open
that.
to spontaneous changes of plan, disconnect, turn off social media. What else?
Uh, I think now enjoy your life, enjoy your family. I'm very grateful for having so much time. I mean, I'm building a business which is consuming a lot of time of my life now, a lot of meetings and investors but being able to work from home most of the time, so I still have a break between meetings. I can see my daughter. I can have a 5 minutes break, go there, enjoy with her. Can, I don't know, be close to her. That's for the moment in my life, that's crucial. Being able to be very close of this, but I think, like you said, enjoy your life, be patient, and remember that someday you're gonna look it back, and you have to be happy for the things that you did it, not for the things that you didn't. So I try to take like that, go make it, be open, talk with people. They're gonna help you if you have a nice cause. We saw that. Try to be open to help the other people as well. You can build this chain of helping people, and I know it sounds cliche, but that's how I try to take it, and it's working. So I keep doing.
I like it. Leo, tell us about the new project.
Well, okay, it's a company called Elira app, where we are connecting content creators globally to business partner. But we are not agents, because what happening nowadays in the creators economy, we do have a lot of agents connecting brand with content creator. And I think the creator nowadays, they have so much power, and they are not being paid for that. They are not getting the attention they should. The things are not created, they're not designed by for them. So we are trying to do now is I get in my whole experience as a creator, um, and my experience as a businessman from the previous years. And we developed, it's already an MVP, it's working now. And we are connecting creators to hotels, to bed and breakfast, to restaurants, but we make a straight connection. You don't have to go through a person. So for every creator who come to our platform, they can register for free, and they're gonna have experience like Airbnb or like Booking. They're gonna search for the place they wanna go. So they wanna go to Rio de Janeiro, for example. They're gonna see the places in Rio, like hotels, hostels, restaurant, And once they click in this place, instead of having a price, they have a collaboration offer. So this place, they offer 2 nights and 2 breakfasts in exchange of one post in your feed, in Instagram post, or 2 combos, 2 packs of reels, or a pack of stories. So they describe what they're expecting you to create in terms of content creation. And from there, you can connect with the hotel straight. You have a chat, you can get reviews. So we are trying more to bring more, how can I say, more, something more sophisticated to this connection. Until today, it was made by, I don't know, WhatsApp to DMs to email. So we were putting everything in one platform.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's happening. It's a 6 month company. We haven't spent much money. I did the whole thing. I was the dev behind it. Something really cool for the people who wants to work around, who wants to get more into this financial and nomad life, abroad. There's a what they call nowadays low code or no code,
Hmm.
which is a much easier way to develop an app.
Hmm.
Or
Definitely.
and I was into this, and I did the whole thing into this bubble application, and now we are raising money. So yeah, interesting times. We got like 500 creators in that platform without spending a dollar in marketing. So we have 110 business partner already, hotels and cafes, and so it's picking up. And now we're gonna have money to kind of bring more traction and really test the product in the next month, not next months.
All right, guys. Leo's raising money. Hit him
Yeah.
up. Hit him up. How do you spell it again? The name of the new project?
Illira, Elera, like Illira.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll link that up in the show notes as well as all the other social medias for Viajo Logo Existo. Leo, any closing words anywhere that you want to send the audience or a final message?
I think the thing that we just talked about it, like, just do it. I mean, don't be a hackless guy. No, I'm not talking about leave everything behind, go walk in the world. But there's so many nice things you can make nowadays, and with the internet and those things regarding creators and influencers, there's so much space to create a nice project. But try to take like more like a business mentality. Do not create like an Instagram and try to raise money or sponsor just for the sake of the Instagram. Try to bring something alongside. I'm gonna cross the whole US by walk. I have a friend who just crossed like 7,000 kilometers from, I think, California to Canada. Wow, that's a fucking nice story. He didn't get any money, but I mean, there's so much easier to get a sponsor for them than to someone who is just making Instagram with nice picture of food. So try to bring something more, like a backbone while you're doing that, and go enjoy the world. You're gonna get money for that. You're gonna have the freedom to live in Thailand, to live in Costa Rica, to live in Portugal, and it's a work nowadays. 10 years ago, that would be a problem. They would say you are a vagabond, whatever in English word, like you don't want to work. Nowadays, you can work, you can make money, you can have a nice life, and you still see like a nice lifestyle. So yeah, go make it.
I love it. Think big, guys. Sweet. Well, this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, my guest today was Leo Spencer from Viajo Logo Existo. Leo, thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure, man. All the time when you need.